When I opened that bedroom door and saw my husband kneeling beside our daughter, whispering something I'll never forget, I didn't scream. I didn't ask questions. I froze. Because the truth was worse than anything I had imagined. Have you ever had one of those moments where your brain shuts down? Not because you don't understand what's happening, but because some part of you does, and it just hurts too much to process? Comment yes or no. Have you ever felt like that before? And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and like this video. Trust me, you're gonna want to hear where this story goes. This one changed everything. Let me take you back. Just a few months before that night. Back when I still believed I had a normal marriage, a normal home, a normal daughter. My name's Macy. I'm a teacher, a mom, and I guess at the time I was the kind of wife people thought had it all together. You know the type, gets the groceries, never misses a school pickup, always knows where the band-aids are. But inside, I was drowning. Quietly, softly, the kind of drowning that doesn't splash. It started with the little things. The kind of little things that never seem like much until they pile up and crush you all at once. Burnt toast 3 days in a row because I was too distracted to pop it out in time. Missing my own doctor's appointment because I was busy rescheduling everyone else's. Forgetting to reply to a friend's text for 6 days straight. Not because I didn't care, but because I was just tired. The kind of tired that doesn't go away after sleep. And then there was the house. Funny how a place can feel like a stranger. My house used to sound like life, music, laughter, doors slamming, dumb arguments over pizza toppings. Now it just felt hollow, like the walls were holding their breath. My daughter Ariella had changed. 17, moody, sharp-eyed, and so cold to me it burned. She used to come sit on the counter while I cooked and ramble about school. Now she barely looked up from her phone. At first I blamed it on hormones. Exams, teen stuff. But something felt off, and not just with her. My husband Alaric was still doing the good husband things, bringing groceries, fixing the broken sink, asking if I needed help grading papers. But you know what's worse than a man yelling at you? A man being kind to you. When he doesn't see you anymore, it was like I'd become background noise. White noise. Useful, pleasant, easy to ignore. And then there was this one moment, small, but weird. He and Ariella were on the couch watching a movie. I was in the kitchen. I heard her laugh, loud, not the fake laugh she gives me, a real one. And I peeked around the corner. He was smiling at her like I hadn't seen him smile at me in years. Now look, I know what you're thinking. She's jealous of her own daughter? No. Not even close. But something about the way he leaned in when she whispered something, the way she tucked her legs under her like a shy little girl, the way he brushed her hair from her face, it made my stomach twist, just for a second. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was tired, overworked, overreacting. I told myself a lot of things back then. That night, I poured a glass of wine, scrolled through old pictures on my phone, and told myself this was just a phase. But that's the thing about gut feelings. They don't go away. They wait. And they come back louder. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have known, was that my whole life was about to get flipped inside out. Because the man I married wasn't just keeping secrets. He was whispering to them in the dark. To our daughter. And I wasn't ready for what I was about to find out. It's strange how the human brain will rewrite reality just to avoid a little pain. You see something off, and instead of facing it, you smooth it over. You label it nothing. You call it stress. You tell yourself, he's probably just tired. She's probably just being a teenager. That's what I did. Alaric started taking more phone calls in private. At first, I didn't even notice. He'd step into the laundry room with his phone or walk out onto the porch after dinner and close the sliding door behind him. Normal, right? Except it became a pattern, and every time I asked who he was talking to, he'd smile and say, work, just annoying stuff. Except, Alaric works in finance. He hates calls. He's the text me the spreadsheet guy. He doesn't do long, quiet conversations. So yeah, something felt off. And then, there was Ariella. She was being different, and not in the eye-rolling, door-slamming teenage way. She was careful around me, like she was constantly trying to read my mood before speaking. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, she'd be sweet. Like sweet in the way she used to be back in 6th grade when she wanted me to buy her concert tickets. You know that fake nice that almost feels real? Yeah, That. But here's the part I still can't explain. She started calling her dad Alaric. Not dad. Not daddy. Just Alaric. And he never corrected her. The first time I heard it, I was putting dishes away. I froze. She said it casually. Alaric, can you hand me the charger? He chuckled like it was some private joke. I waited for him to say, hey, that's still dad to you, but it never came. That's when I started paying attention. Late one evening, I was upstairs folding laundry. Their voices drifted up from the living room, soft, low, full of those weird pauses that don't mean anything if you're not listening close. But I was listening. I crept halfway down the stairs, just enough to peek through the railing. They were sitting on the couch. Ariella had her knees tucked under her, wrapped in one of Alaric's hoodies. He was leaning in close, nodding, like he was soaking up every word. And she was whispering. I couldn't hear what she said, but I saw his face. He laughed. Not just a polite chuckle, but that real kind of laugh. The kind I hadn't heard from him in months. I went back upstairs. Didn't say anything. Didn't accuse. Didn't ask. Because asking makes it real, doesn't it? And I wasn't ready for reality. The next night, I couldn't sleep. There was this weird pressure in my chest, like when you forget to breathe for too long. I got up, made tea, and headed down the hall. Ariella's door was cracked open just slightly. That's when I heard it. Alaric's voice inside her room. Not yelling, not lecturing, just whispering. A calm, intimate tone. The kind you use when you're telling someone a secret. I stood there, frozen. I didn't lean closer. I didn't barge in. I just listened. I heard her say something I couldn't make out. Then a pause. Then him. His voice low and careful. We just have to keep this between us. That's when I stepped back. Didn't confront, didn't knock, didn't scream. I just turned. Walked back to my room, and as I crawled into bed, something inside me cracked. I told myself it was nothing. Just father-daughter stuff. But why did my hands tremble when I walked away? Why did I feel like I was standing on the edge of something terrible? Sometimes, the people who see you best aren't the ones waiting at home. They're the ones you least expect. A stranger. A coworker. Someone who catches a glimpse of you in a moment you thought you were hiding well. That's how it started with Valentin Bird. He was a substitute PE coach at the high school where I teach. Temporary contract. Just filling in for a semester while the usual coach recovered from knee surgery. The kind of guy who wears worn-in sneakers, drinks black coffee out of a chipped thermos, and always holds the door open even when you're half a hallway away. I wasn't looking for him. But I noticed him. And worse, he noticed me. It was a Tuesday. One of those nothing days, where the sky is gray and everything you do feels like you're walking underwater. I had just finished grading a stack of papers, scarfed down half a granola bar between classes, and found myself in the staff lounge pretending to check email. Just so I wouldn't cry in the bathroom. That's when he walked in, nodded politely, grabbed a coffee, and just before walking back out, he looked at me and said, "You okay?" I didn't expect it. Most people don't ask like that anymore. They say, "How are you?" like they're reading from a script. But this was different. It felt real. It hit something I didn't even know was raw. I gave an automatic smile, the I'm fine version that we all perfect by adulthood. But I must have looked worse than I thought because he didn't move. He just waited. And finally I said it. "I'm just tired." His face softened. He didn't ask why, didn't press. He just nodded slowly and said, "Do you ever feel like you're a guest in your own family?" That's when my throat clenched. Because how do you explain that sentence had been living in your chest for weeks? He said it so casually, like it was just a passing thought. But it cracked something open in me. I didn't reply. I just smiled. A real one this time. The kind that comes out crooked when you're holding back tears. I hated that it felt good. Hated that I felt seen. Because that smile? That was the first one I'd felt in weeks. And it wasn't because of Alaric, or Ariella, or anything waiting for me at home. For the next few days, I kept running into Valentine. At the vending machine, in the hallway, during fire drill lineups. He never hovered, never flirted, just existed nearby. Like a warm coat you don't know you need until the wind hits. One day, he handed me a coffee without saying a word. Just slid it across the desk during lunch and went back to reading the attendance log. And I swear, my eyes burned. Not because of the gesture itself, but because it had been so long since anyone thought to take care of me, even in a small way. Now here's the part I still struggle with. I started looking forward to seeing him. Not in a romantic way. Not then. But in a human way. In this way, you crave shade after standing too long in the sun, and yes, I hated myself for it. Because while Alaric was whispering in locked bedrooms, and Ariella was shutting me out, Valentine was offering nothing more than eye contact and quiet understanding, and somehow, that felt like cheating. Is that wrong? Let me know in the comments. Does emotional comfort from someone else count as betrayal, even if nothing physical ever happens? Yes or no? Because I didn't touch him, but I smiled because of him, and somehow that felt worse. Some memories turn against you. They sneak in when you least expect them, dress like comfort, and then punch you in the chest. That night, for no reason at all, I remembered the way Alaric used to read bedtime stories to Ariella. She was 5, pajamas with dancing moons on them, her curls are wild and tangled. She'd crawl into bed, holding that same battered picture book with the broken spine. And every night she'd beg him, "Do the voices, Daddy, do the dragon again." And he would. He'd crouch beside the bed, puff out his cheeks, and growl in this goofy low voice that made her squeal with laughter. It used to melt me, watching them together. The way she reached for his face. The way he looked at her like she hung the moon. And now? Now I couldn't look at either of them without feeling a hole form in the pit of my stomach. Ariella barely touched me anymore, and Alaric only touched me when it was performative, holding my hand at dinner in front of guests, brushing a crumb off my shoulder when someone was watching. But in private? Nothing. It was late. I had just tucked myself into bed with a heating pad and a worn-out tank top when I realized I left my water bottle downstairs. Normally I'd let it go, but my throat was dry and something pushed me to get up. Quiet house, dim hallway, no TV sounds, just soft creaks beneath my steps. I walked past Ariella's room. The door was cracked open, and what I saw made the air leave my lungs. Alaric was kneeling beside her bed, just like he used to. His hand resting on the blanket near her hip, not touching, but close. Too close. Ariella was curled up facing away from him, her voice barely audible. I couldn't hear the whole sentence, but I heard his response. Clear, calm, gentle. "We just have to keep this between us." She wouldn't understand. I didn't move, didn't blink. My brain lit up like a fire alarm, but my body, it just froze. For a second, I thought he might notice me in the hallway, catch my reflection in the dark, but he never turned. He just kept whispering. Soft, careful, like a secret lover or a bedtime ritual. And Ariella? She nodded, silent. Small, obedient. I backed away, step by step, like I was tiptoeing away from a ledge I hadn't realized I was standing on. I didn't confront him, didn't ask what I heard, didn't kick the door open like the woman in movies. I went to the kitchen, filled my bottle, and stood there under the flickering fridge light with shaking hands. Staring at nothing, breathing like I'd just run 5 miles. And when I finally got back into bed, I didn't cry. I just stared at the ceiling. I didn't ask questions. I just started dying inside. Because deep down, I think I already knew, and knowing felt like a betrayal in my own skin. What would you have done at that moment? Would you have barged in, or walked away like I did? Tell me in the comments. I still wonder if I failed right there. If that 1 second of silence made me part of the problem. There's a special kind of ache that comes when your own child turns their eyes against you. Not with hate, not with rage, but with something worse, disgust. After that night, I started watching. Not passively, not from a distance. I watched like someone trying to catch something. Like a detective with no case file, just suspicion and insomnia. Every glance, every pause, every half conversation that ended when I walked into a room. I noticed it all. The late night giggles, the locked door during movie nights, the way Ariella's phone always seemed to be face down when I walked by. I started doing things I'm ashamed to admit. I checked her drawers, her closet, her bag. Opened Alaric's laptop when he wasn't looking, went through his texts, his calendar, even scrolled through the recently deleted folder on her phone when she left it charging in the kitchen. And what did I find? Nothing. Not one photo, not one suspicious message, just 100 little normal things that somehow felt wrong. And that's the thing, when you're spiraling like that, nothing becomes worse than something. Because then you start wondering if the problem is you. Maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe I was projecting. Maybe I was becoming the kind of mom girls rant about in therapy. One afternoon, I asked her gently, "Hey, has something been bothering you lately?" Her eyes didn't even leave the screen. She just shrugged and said, "No." "Why?" And I tried to follow up, tried to say something, anything that could open a window between us. But she cut me off with a sigh so sharp it felt like a slap. "You always think something's wrong. Maybe the problem is you." Later that week, we were cleaning up after dinner. Alaric was upstairs, supposedly taking a call. It was just me and Ariella in the kitchen. Plates, forks, the sound of water running. I tried again. "Sweetheart, I just want to know what's going on between you and your dad." She turned, not slowly, not nervously, like she was waiting for me to ask, "Why do you care now? Maybe if you weren't so cold, he wouldn't need someone else." I swear to you, I felt my knees go weak. Like my own daughter had reached into my chest and pulled something out. I stared at her. She didn't flinch, didn't soften, just stood there with those hard teenage eyes that had seen something she should never have seen, or maybe misunderstood something she never should have heard. I couldn't speak. I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the floor. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe this was just her pushing buttons, like teens do. But there was something behind her words that felt too precise, too knowing, and worst of all, she looked like him when she said it. I stared at myself in the mirror that night, really looked, and what I saw wasn't a woman anymore. It was a shell. Eyes sunken from weeks of bad sleep, skin dull, shoulders hunched, not from age, not from illness, from confusion, from guilt, from watching the people I love twist into strangers. And in that moment, God help me, I didn't know who I was angrier at. Her, for defending him, or me, for letting it get this far? Tell me in the comments, was she manipulated, or was she just cruel? Because even now, I still don't know. I didn't plan to cry. Honestly, I didn't even feel like I had the energy left to cry. But sometimes, your body decides for you. And that morning, it did. I was in the staff lounge, hunched over a copy machine that had jammed for the third time that week. Everyone else had cleared out for class. It was just me, a stack of ungraded tests, and a blinking error light. And that's when it happened. This silent flood just started falling down my face. No heaving sobs, no dramatic breakdown, just tears. Quiet and steady, like my body had sprung a leak from carrying too much. I didn't even hear him walk in. Valentin. He didn't say anything at first, just kind of hovered near the doorway holding a coffee mug that read, "Not my circus." Then, gently, "Macy?" I wiped my face quickly, did the whole fake cough, back-turned, allergies routine. But when I turned around, he wasn't fooled. Not even close. He stepped closer, not too close, just enough to offer safety but not pressure. And in the quietest, calmest voice, he asked, "Are you afraid of him?" I didn't answer, not because I didn't want to, but because I honestly didn't know. Was I afraid of Alaric? Not in the way you fear someone hitting you, not in the Lifetime movie way. But I was afraid of the silence, the things I couldn't prove, the possibility that my instincts weren't just paranoia, but truth. I was afraid of being right, and being too late. I looked at Valentine. He didn't push, he just sat across from me and waited. Then, he said something I'll never forget. Groomers don't just target kids. They isolate, they reframe love as secrecy. It's psychological warfare. I swallowed hard. He continued, still calm. They don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like husbands, or stepdads, or good guys. But their tactic is the same. Make the child feel special, misunderstood, chosen, and make the mom feel crazy, irrelevant, wrong. I didn't realize I was gripping the table until he gently tapped my knuckles to loosen my hand. "You're not crazy," he said. "And you're not weak. You're paying attention. That's something most people don't do until it's too late." And just like that, there it was, that strange mix of relief and shame. Relief that someone saw me, shame that it wasn't my own husband. I didn't say much after that, just nodded, gathered my papers, and walked back to my classroom with my heart pounding so hard it made my teeth hurt. Because now I had a word for what I was afraid of. And once you name a fear, it doesn't disappear. It grows teeth. Have you ever had someone make you feel like the crazy one? Only for someone else to finally tell you, "No, you're right"? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading. The thing about motherhood that no one warns you about? It's how many pieces of yourself you'll willingly give away just to make someone else whole. And I had given everything to Ariella. My sleep, my time, my body, my marriage. Even when I was barely holding myself together, I still poured whatever was left into her. Because that's what moms do, right? So when I found that journal, I wasn't prepared. Not even a little. It happened on a Sunday. The kind of slow afternoon where the light spills through the windows and you almost forget your life is unraveling. I was cleaning Ariella's room. She had gone to the mall with a friend, left in a rush, hoodie and headphones, without a word. Normally I wouldn't snoop, but Normal had left this house a long time ago. At first it was just clutter. Notebooks, empty chip bags, a half-finished painting with smeared colors. Then I saw it, a simple spiral-bound journal. Unlabeled, no stickers, just worn at the edges like it had been held a lot. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But something in me, some whisper of desperation, needed answers. So I opened it. The first few pages were innocent enough. Doodles, class notes, scribbled to-do lists. But about halfway in, the handwriting changed. It got tighter, messier, angrier. And then these words, he said I remind him of her. I read it twice. He? Her who? Then a few pages later, Mommy doesn't know I'm not hers. My entire body froze. I sat down on the floor, journal in hand, breath caught in my throat. Not hers? What was she talking about? I flipped back through the pages like a madwoman, searching for context, a name, a date, anything. But all I found were half-thoughts, emotional landmines without explanation. I think she suspects something. I wish I didn't have to lie to her, but he said she wouldn't understand. Sometimes I wish I could run away from both of them. I slammed the journal shut. My hands were shaking. My heart was thudding so loud it echoed in my ears. Was she saying, I'm not her mother? Or that he told her that? Was it a metaphor? Manipulation? Some twisted way of separating us? Or was it something else entirely? I walked out of her room like I was sleepwalking. My brain felt scrambled, like trying to do a jigsaw puzzle while blindfolded. Not mine. What the hell did that mean? I looked at myself in the hallway mirror. And for the first time, I didn't recognize the woman staring back. What if this wasn't just emotional distance? What if the foundation I thought I built, this whole life, was never real? What if I had been raising a child who wasn't even mine, because he planned it that way? What would you do if you read those words in your child's journal? Mommy doesn't know I'm not hers. Would you ask? Would you break? Let me know in the comments. I didn't know what to believe anymore. At some point, instinct stops whispering and starts screaming. Mine was screaming now. I didn't sleep the night I read that journal. I just lay there, wide-eyed, frozen, replaying every moment, every glance, every night. I didn't ask a question because I didn't want to be crazy. I wasn't crazy. I was slow, and now I had to catch up. So the next day, while Alaric and Ariella were out, he had taken her thrifting, something they'd recently started doing just the two of them. I slipped into her room again. But this time, I didn't touch the journal. I tucked a small voice recorder, one of those discreet little black ones teachers use for lecture notes, under her nightstand. Taped it to the wood beneath. It felt disgusting. But not nearly as disgusting as the way my gut twisted when I did it. I didn't want to spy. I wanted the truth. Even if it broke me. I waited 2 days. 2 full days of pretending everything was fine, of sitting at dinner while they laughed at inside jokes, of watching Alaric tousle her hair like she was 5, of watching her blush and swat his hand away with that strange little smirk that didn't look like a daughter's smile. And then, Thursday night, they were in her room again. Door closed, light on. I walked past, paused. My heart thudded in my ears. I didn't stay to listen. I didn't knock. I just walked away, slipped the recorder out an hour later, and waited until I was alone. I locked myself in my car. Driver's seat, midnight. Pushed the play button. The audio crackled softly. Some movement, a drawer closing, footsteps. Then his voice. You okay? Yeah, Ariella's voice. Small, uncertain. I just want you to remember something, all right? Okay. Your mom will never know. You're not her daughter. You're mine, and your Aunt Becca didn't want you, but I did. I dropped the recorder, literally. It bounced off my lap and hit the floor of the car. I couldn't breathe, couldn't blink, couldn't move. My brain said no. This can't be real. This is some kind of sick misunderstanding, but my heart already knew. Knew what it meant. Knew what it exposed. Becca. My younger sister. The wild one. The one who always left bruises on my life and called it a hug. She had vanished from the family 18 years ago. Said she needed to get clean and get free. I hadn't heard from her in over a decade. And now here it was. Plain as day. Alaric had an affair with Becca. And the child I had raised, loved, and broken myself for wasn't mine by blood. She was hers. The product of betrayal. A betrayal no one ever told me about. And Alaric? He had claimed her. Tucked her under the wing of fatherhood, only to twist it into something unthinkable. He wasn't her stepfather, he was her biological father. And now he was grooming his own daughter, wrapped in bedtime stories, thrift store outings, and whispers behind a closed door. This wasn't just infidelity. This wasn't just betrayal. This was rot. This was a sickness that had been living inside my house, smiling across the dinner table, calling itself love. And me? I had tucked her in. Braided her hair. Held her through fevers. Read her bedtime stories with his voice echoing in my memories. I had built my motherhood on a lie. What do you even do with a truth like that? Tell me. What would you do if the man you married whispered to your daughter, "You're not hers, you're mine"? Because I still don't know how I made it through that night. There's something surreal about setting the dinner table when your whole world is about to come undone. Plates, napkins, forks clicking like nothing's wrong. Alaric came home with groceries. Ariella followed behind him, quiet, distant, like always. We sat down, chicken, rice, the usual, and I waited. I let them serve themselves, let the silence be like a pot left too long on the stove. Then, I reached into my cardigan pocket, pulled out the recorder, and placed it gently on the table.